So this is just an example. It's a very, very basic example of where we have to then start problem solving and forming and solving equations and inequalities to solve the problem. How do we know that this will be an inequality rather than an equation?
Because of the at least.
Exactly, yeah. It's that bit is at least 180 inches.
At least means equal to 2. So what if it's greater than or...
Yeah, so we're saying that the length, right, is related to the perimeter. Okay, so what must the length be if the perimeter is at least 180? So what do I have to say about the perimeter? Must be...
greater, greater than or equal to.
Greater than or equal to
180.
180. Right, so just to explain something, this leads very nicely into stuff that you will eventually do to do with calculus. Alright, so we'll hopefully be doing that this year, next year maybe, but definitely when we do something called maximisation problems, because, yes?
This is kind of irrelevant, but
Shall I not video it?
yes. Oh yeah.
Right, so the width of a rectangle is 20 inches. Now this kind of problem leads us into optimization. So when a company is trying to build a box or a bottle or anything like that, and they're fabricating something, what they're saying is they have certain parameters that have to be met, but then they're trying to maximize other things. So if they are getting a sheet of metal from a supplier, and they want to make the largest volume of box they possibly can, then they're trying to work out the dimensions. So this is kind of where we start looking at it. But we're talking about inequalities basic. So the width of a rectangle is 20 inches. What must the length be if the perimeter is at least 180? Okay. So how do we communicate this, not just show the answer? How would you show your working out?
Alright, so you do, first you would just take the 180 inches, because rectangle.
So I'm going to draw my rectangle.
So there's two widths. It's
So the width is 20.
20, and then there's 20 on either side, so 180
Yeah.
minus 40.
So we've got 180 minus the 40, which is
And
100.
then you would divide that by 2, because there's two sides. Right?
So the length would equal 70.
But because it's at least, you would say the length is greater than or equal to 70 inches.
Okay. So that's the only real difference at this point, isn't it? Okay. So that what we've done there is say that's when it equals 180, but we're saying length has to be greater than or equal to 170. All right. Sorry, 70. Yeah. So basic inequalities, but put in a certain situation. So you've got a question at the bottom of that sheet. Okay. Thing.
Wait, which question is it? Oh, the last one? The very last
So
one?
a student with a distrust of banks keeps money under his mattress and at the end of every month deposits a £20, dollar, whatever you want, note there. He remembers that he initially stashed 120 under the mattress, which was obtained by closing a savings account his parents set up for him. But he can't remember when he did this. At the end of a particular month, after depositing his £20 note, he does a quick survey how much money he has under the mattress and finds that it is at least 200. What can be said about the number of months passed since he closed? So you need to work that out. So work it out. So, which words matter?
Every
Per
month.
month.
So at the end of every month, he deposits a £20 note or whatever.
At least.
Yes. He remembers that he initially stashed £120 or dollars, but he can't remember when he did this. At the end of a particular month, after depositing his £20 note, this quick survey, and he has under the mattress finds it is at least 200. So if we set up our equation, so again we are going to model this equation or this situation by setting up an equation. Do you have a suggestion or a question?
Well, I have a suggestion.
Okay, go on then.
Well, you realize that he had 120 to start,
Yeah.
and it's $20 each month, so it's been at least $80.
How do I set up, so you're giving me straight the answer, but what we need to do, and it's fine, it makes perfect sense to you, but how do I actually write the system of equations, or the equation in this case, not system, but how do I write the equation to model this situation? So I think you started with, yeah?
So you do 200 pounds. 200 pounds minus 120 pounds.
So that's not really setting up my equations.
Oh, so
That's just working out an answer. So we take, go on.
120 plus 20m is greater or equal to 200.
Okay. Did you get that?
Yeah.
So that's setting up my inequality. Alright?
Okay.
And what's the unknown that we're solving? Well, it says what can be said about exactly the number of months. So that's the t rho g, that's the unknown. Okay. So nice and simple equation that's been set up, and then we need to solve it, right? Subtract 120 gives me 20m must be greater than or equal to 80, which is what you were trying to tell me anyway. Okay.
I just didn't do it regular to that sign.
So 80 over 20. So,
M is greater than or equal to 4.
okay. Now this situation, do you notice how when we actually get a real life applied situation, the checking thing, we should still get into a habit of checking, but it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because the amount of money under the bed is going to get bigger.
Big.
Therefore, it doesn't make sense that m is going to be less than 4. So we're happy in this case, really, if we think about what that actually represents, and that's something people don't do often enough, by the way. They don't look at it and go, in the context of the problem I'm solving, does that make sense? So m is going to be greater than 4, so it means the number of months is going to get bigger than 4. So it makes sense, because the money will keep going up. We've got at least 200, means I must have done, doesn't mean I'm getting less than 4 months. Okay? Make sense? All right? Easy.